joining us now to talk about the news as it unfolded, surprising to most, from the Baltimore Banner. Let's welcome back to the show, Giana Han. First of all, Giana, good morning. Thanks for joining us. And, you know, for those who cover the Ravens on a daily basis, when everything started to break, how stunned were you and your colleagues?
I mean, it makes sense when a team underperforms to that extent, but this isn't just like any team. I always thought it was interesting how fans have for years called for John Harbaugh's head, and it just never felt like a possibility in the building, from like team personnel to the actual players. No one really talked like it was something that could happen. And so, sure, we did our due diligence and we had our pre-writes ready, but when it actually happened, it felt really fast. Even just looking at the statement, it felt like the team felt like it happened fast. How often do you see an emoji in a statement? But, it was definitely, even though it makes sense to a certain extent, it was still a shock.
Now, we can get into all the why did it happen and how did it happen so quickly, but reports were that Bisciotti or whomever wanted Monken gone, and Harbs balked at that, or he wanted the whole coaching staff to come back in total. There was discord within the locker room. I mean, was there any sort of drama that leads us to believe that would be the case? Because we all assume from the outside that given Lamar's success individually and goes along with the team success, he and Monken were vibing like he had never vibed with anyone before.
Well, that's definitely not true. I don't know about the rest of it there are a lot of rumors out there right now about how this went down. I've been working to parse through some of them, trying to poke holes just to see which one holds up. So the biggest problem, I think, is in terms of knowing the truth, is Lamar is Lamar, and he goes about things his own way. And if we don't hear from Lamar, especially doesn't feel like sharing, I don't know if we'll ever know the full story. And I know that like fans and people were pushing back that people were asking Lamar these questions right after a loss. But the thing is, Lamar doesn't have an agent. So if you don't ask him then, we all knew he wasn't going to be at exit interviews. You simply might not hear from him unless he feels like it until OTAs, if he shows up. So you kind of had to ask him right then. He had the week before defended John Harbaugh, but then post-game he refused to say anything. So maybe there could be the Lamar Harbaugh discontent narrative. Maybe it could be, I've heard like veteran leaders were upset with Harbaugh. But certainly when I was in the locker room, it was more Monken discontent that I heard than Harbaugh discontent. No one was like avidly, passionately defending Harbaugh or anything, but no one was also like complaining a lot about him or telling me this guy needs to go. So definitely, and we reported this earlier, there was discontent with Monken. You don't see Monken and Lamar really communicating either. Monken will say they have a good relationship in press conferences because he has to, but if you're like at practice stuff, you don't really see them talking to each other. It's usually him talking to T. Martin. So, but I think that went beyond Lamar.
So sticking with Lamar for now, I mean, what would you think his involvement may or may not be in the search for a new coach? Because, I mean, this is kind of new for the organization as a whole. 18 years goes without saying, but DaCosta hasn't been a part of this kind of thing. Ozzie was here for the last one. Bisciotti's been here for one. It's kind of new territory for everybody.
Yeah, definitely new territory for me in Baltimore. I can't remember a time John wasn't the coach. I was alive during that time. I just don't remember it. But I think they do give Lamar a lot of power in this organization, right? And sometimes it can be hard to tell, again, because he's not out here saying anything. He's very down to earth in a way, in that it doesn't seem like he'd be someone that is exercising his power over this organization, but we know he does, right? They built the whole offense around him. We know that Eric listens to his thoughts about draft prospects. And so he's also just a unique character. So if you're choosing to stick with Lamar over Harbaugh, then you need someone that's going to mesh with Lamar. What that looks like, I'm not sure, because I don't know if you want someone that's going to be buddy and like kowtows to him, but also at almost 29 years old, I don't know if you're going to bring in someone who's going to like be a strict disciplinarian, because I think if you were going to do that, it had to happen when he was younger and not very set in his ways. So certainly you're going to have to find someone that has some sort of chemistry with Lamar, and that is a very unique thing to have to do.
Now, what do you think's next for Harbaugh here? Because the two immediate teams that are generating the most headline buzz right now, Giants and Browns. Bob and I think that either one would be a good fit. Are you in on that? That those seem like the most natural for now? And if there was one that had an edge over the other, at least on paper, what would you say?
Yeah, I think for now it's a good statement, because what they said, like there were, last I saw, 9 teams interested, and there were only 6 openings if you don't include the Ravens. So certainly there are also other teams who haven't fired their coaches yet, which means they could be more successful. I don't know, honestly, Harbaugh well enough to know if he would want to take on like a huge project of a team, or maybe one that's closer. The only thing with Browns, I understand like it would be division and, kind of stick it to the Ravens, but that organization is also a bit of a mess. They're, got the Deshaun Watson stuff hanging over their heads. What they had, like, I don't even remember how many quarterbacks on their payroll last year. So it just seems like there's a little bit more going on than just like the football stuff. And I wonder how willing John would be to take that on after how much off the field stuff he had to deal with here. And that's for a pretty well-run organization compared to the Browns.
Giana Han, Baltimore Banner Giana, last thing for you. You mentioned Lamar and the scarcity that he speaks with the media in the offseason. I mean, Steve Bisciotti's even more, I don't know, absent in that regard. When should we expect to hear from him? Because me and Nolan are speculating. You know how this business works. You speculate, you're usually wrong. Does he talk about Harbsy getting whacked, or do we hear from him after they hire the new coach, if we hear from him at all?
That's such a good question, because I've never heard from Bisciotti in the entire time I've been here. I've met him and heard from him off the record about non-football things, but have never heard him speak. So I don't even know what gets him to speak. I would like to think that we would hear from him at some point after firing a coach that's been here for 18 years. But I can't guarantee that. It's been a little bit difficult with planning with the Ravens lately. We got a few hours heads up for exit interviews. Usually there's a GM press conference by the end of the season, like around the last week. And we haven't heard about that yet. So I can't really predict the ways of the Ravens. Yeah. I would love to. It'd make my life a lot easier. But, I think, and to be fair, I think this has rocked the entire organization. So everyone, including planners, are probably scrambling a bit.
Or maybe you wait till 4 days later, a road trip in Milwaukee, meet with the select people in the dog. Wait a minute, where'd that come from all of a sudden? Giana Han from the Baltimore Banner. Giana, appreciate the time. Hey, good luck, good job covering all of this as it happens, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, as always.
There's Giana Han, everybody.